I got my renewal notice last month. The number was 16% higher than the year before. I hadn't had an accident. I hadn't gotten a ticket. I had moved. I called my agent. She said, rising costs in your area. I said, okay. I almost hung up. But something about the way she said it, like she'd said it 100 times that week, made me stop. What costs? Whose costs? I hadn't had an accident. So who was I paying for? I'm Carl Kim. Welcome to Interconnected. If your insurance bill is a reflection of how you drive, then overnight, a few million mirrors just cracked. And that warped image you're staring at, that's not you. That's the machinery you've been stuck inside. I talked to a woman. She's a composite built from dozens of real conversations who maxed out her 401k for 19 years, never had an accident, and still watched her premium climb 3 years running. She's not the point of this story. She's the warning. Here's what I know so far. Since January 2022, the cost of car insurance has gone up 56%. 56. That's not a few drivers ruining it for everyone. That's a wave. And it hit people with clean records, people with paid off cars, people who did everything right. The cars got safer, the bills got bigger. Something doesn't add up. The average full coverage policy went up $1,625 in 2 years. That's a 30% increase. And the increases are accelerating. 17% from 2023 to 2024, 12% the year after that. Millions of people with clean records all got hit at once. That pattern can't be personal. It's systemic. It's structural. And the thing that really bothers me is that the cars themselves are safer than they've ever been. Advanced driver assistance systems can cut crash risk by 50%, 50% fewer crashes, and yet the premiums are up by more than half. Those two numbers don't fit together. They're not supposed to. Let's start the investigation. The idea most of us carry around about car insurance is simple. You're a risk. The insurance company measures your risk. Your premium is what that measurement costs. Drive carefully, keep your record clean, buy a sensible car, live in a safe neighborhood. Do all that, and your price will be fair. If your price goes up, you must have done something. A ticket, a fender bender, a teenager added to the policy. And if nothing changed and the bill still jumped, well, inflation. Everything costs more. That's just the world. That idea is reasonable. It's also taught. Every renewal notice, every quote tool, every ways to higher your rate article frames the premium as a function of your choices. The factors carrier site, age, driving experience, driving record, claims history, location, type of car, how you use it, are all individual. The cultural narrative of personal responsibility maps onto it perfectly. Good behavior, good price. It feels true because it's partly true. Your record does matter. And the alternative, that much of your price is set by forces with nothing to do with you, is both harder to see and more unsettling. I believed this. I believed it until I got that renewal notice, and then I started asking questions. Not big questions yet, just what costs? What rising costs in your area? I hadn't hit anything. I hadn't changed. So who was I paying for? And here's the thing about that question. Once you start asking it, you can't stop because the answer isn't just inflation. Inflation is a background hum. It doesn't explain why the hum is suddenly a scream. It doesn't explain why the cars got safer and the bills got bigger. It doesn't explain why your credit score, something you thought was about loans and credit cards, is quietly pricing your insurance. And it definitely doesn't explain why you can call two different insurers on the same day and get quotes that differ by 30% for the exact same coverage. If the price is a measurement, How can two measurements of the same thing be that different? That's the question that hooked me, and I'm going to walk you through what I found. So I started where most people start. I looked at the reasons insurance companies give for why rates go up. And honestly, some of them make sense. Cars are more expensive to repair now. That's true. Even a minor fender bender can cost thousands of dollars. The average repair time is 22 days, up from 12 days before the pandemic. Parts are harder to get. 60% of replacement car parts are imported from other countries. Supply chains are still tangled. All of that pushes repair costs up. And when repair costs go up, insurance claims cost more. When claims cost more, premiums go up. That's a straight line. I can follow that. Inflation is real. The cost of everything went up. Medical care, labor, paint, steel. Insurance isn't immune to that. So when someone says inflation, I get it. That's not a conspiracy, that's just economics. And here's the part no one likes to hear. Driving actually got worse during the pandemic. Accident rates spiked, fatalities went up. People drove faster on emptier roads. That means more claims, bigger claims. The industry had a terrible year in 2022. The worst underwriting losses in 50 years for personal auto. For every dollar they collected in premiums, they paid out $1.22 in claims. They lost money. They're going to try to make that back. That's how insurance works. It's reactionary. It prices the last disaster, not the next one. So when you see a wave of claims, you know a wave of premium increases is coming. It's just delayed. Your 2025 bill is partly paying off 2022's bad year. So if you'd asked me a year ago, I would have said, yeah, rates are up, but look at the math. It's a bad few years. It'll level off. The system is working the way it's supposed to. But then I kept looking because the size of the increases didn't match the story. 56% since January 2022. That's not a correction. That's a restructuring. And it was hitting everyone. People with clean records, people with paid off cars, people who hadn't filed a claim in a decade. If the system was really a mirror, you'd see a distribution. Some people up a lot, some people up a little, some people down. But that's not what was happening. What was happening looked like a wave that didn't care who you were or how you drove. I talked to a woman. Let's call her Maria. She's 45, no accidents, no tickets, a paid off mid range SUV. She's been with the same insurer for 12 years. She believed the deal. Drive well, pay less. And for 3 years running, her premium went up. No claims, no moves, nothing. She called her agent. The agent said, rising costs in your area. She accepted it. She's a responsible person. She assumes the system is fair. But here's what surprised me. Last year, she finally shopped around. She found a quote for identical coverage, same limits, same deductibles, that was 30% lower. 30%. Same driver, same car, same day. Two different prices. So which one is the real price? If a fair rate is an accurate rate, how can two accurate rates differ by a third for the same person? That question stopped me because it suggests the price was never a measurement. It was a negotiation she didn't know she was in. And here's what Maria told me that I can't shake. She said, "You're telling me the system is impersonal and structural." But the thing that actually saved me wasn't understanding the system. It was 15 minutes of shopping. So is this a story about forces beyond my control or a story about my own passivity? I didn't have an answer. I still don't. So I started pulling on threads, and the first thing I found was this. The cars got safer, and the insurance got more expensive. That doesn't make sense. If you reduce the risk of crashes, you should reduce the cost of insurance. That's the logic. Advanced driver assistance systems, automatic emergency braking, blind spot monitoring, lane departure warning. These things reduce crash risk. Research shows they can cut it by as much as 50%. 50%, that's huge. That means fewer claims, lower premiums for everyone. But here's the thing, when those cars do crash, they cost way more to fix. AAA found that ADAS equipped vehicles cost 37% more to repair than their non equipped counterparts. A windshield replacement that used to be $300 is now $1,500 because the windshield isn't just glass anymore, it's a sensor platform. Behind it are cameras and radar units that have to be calibrated exactly. And a bumper ding, the kind of thing you used to fix in an afternoon for a few $100, can now trigger a four-figure repair bill. Because behind the plastic bumper cover, there's a network of sensors. And if any of them get knocked out of alignment, the whole system has to be recalibrated. So the technology that makes you safer is the same technology that makes your repairs more expensive. And those costs get spread across the entire risk pool. You personally might never crash, but you're paying for the fact that when someone else does, your repair bill is astronomical. This is what I've started calling a paradox. It's when a situation gets more complicated and more comprehensible at the same time. The ADAS systems are doing two things at once. They're saving lives, and they're making insurance unaffordable. Both are true. Neither cancels out the other. The research from LexisNexis shows that ADAS reduces the cost of accidents, but not enough to offset the repair expenses. Not yet. The safety benefit is felt by the driver. The cost is absorbed across the entire risk pool. So you have a situation where the safer driver is paying for the safer car's more expensive repairs. That's not a moral failing, it's just math. But it's math that produces a deeply unintuitive result. The second crack was credit. 92% of insurers now consider your credit history when setting your premiums. I didn't know that. I didn't know that my credit score, which I thought was about loans and credit cards, was also pricing my car insurance. And the numbers are staggering. On average, drivers with poor credit pay 105% more for full coverage than those with excellent credit. That's not a small difference, that's double. Douglas Heller of the Consumer Federation of America put it this way: the vast majority of Americans don't realize that when they shop for insurance, their credit history is likely to have as much or more of an impact as a drunk driving conviction. Let me say that again. A bad credit score can cost you more than a DUI. I talked to an insurance agent in Oregon. She's a composite of conversations I had with several agents. She works with a lot of recent immigrants, people from Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia. They're starting over here. They don't have credit histories or they have thin files. They've never had an accident. They drive old cars, cheap cars. And she has to quote them premiums of $500, $600, $700 a month for a car that's worth maybe $5,000. They're paying the value of the car in premiums every year. Some of them go without insurance. They can't afford it. She told me about one client, a man from Venezuela, arrived 2 years ago, working two jobs, driving a 15-year-old Toyota. No accidents, no tickets. His quote was $650 a month. He said, I can't do that. She said, I know. He drives without insurance now. He's one of the 14% of drivers on the road who are uninsured. And that number, 14%, isn't random. It's partly a consequence of the pricing system itself. When insurance becomes unaffordable, people drop it. And when people drop it, the risk pool shrinks. And when the risk pool shrinks, rates go up for everyone. The system feeds itself. Now, the industry's defense is not dishonest. What goes into the credit score is objectively confirmable data. History of late payments, bankruptcies, adverse public records, proportions of loan amounts owed. And the correlation between credit history and claims is statistically real. people with lower credit scores do tend to file more claims. So the pricing isn't random, it's predictive. But here's the problem. Credit scores are consistently lower for lower income Americans and people of color. So a variable that is statistically predictive is also discriminating by race and income. And accurate and fair come apart. Both things can be true at once, and I don't know what to do with that. So now I'm holding three pieces. One, the cost of repairs has structurally rebased upwards, and it's not coming back down. Two, the price of insurance isn't just about your driving, it's about your credit, your psychology, your willingness to shop. Three, the system is reactionary. It's always pricing the last disaster, not the next one. But I needed someone who could help me see how these pieces fit together, someone who works at the seam where safety and cost actually collide. So I talked to a body shop owner. He's been running a shop for 20 years. He's seen cars go from mechanical to digital. And he told me something I wasn't expecting. He said, look, ADAS saves lives. He's not arguing with that. IIHS research shows automatic emergency braking cuts rear-end crashes by 50%. Blind spot monitoring reduces lane change crashes by 14%. Lane departure warning reduces single vehicle and head-on crashes by 11%. These systems work. They're real. They're not a scam. But here's the dirty secret. Industry research shows that about 88% of required ADAS calibrations are missed during vehicle repairs. 88%. And only about a quarter of repair shops are even equipped to do the calibration. So you get in a crash, you take your car to a shop, they fix the bumper, they paint the panel, but they don't recalibrate the sensors. And your car leaves the shop with a safety system that's misaligned. It might not work when you need it, and you won't know until it's too late. He said, the system assumes I'm doing the calibration. The premium assumes I'm doing the calibration. The price you're paying is built on the assumption that every repair is a gold standard repair. But that's not what's happening. A lot of the time, you're paying for safety you're not getting. That hit me hard because it means the story isn't just insurance is expensive because repairs are expensive. It's insurance is expensive because repairs are supposed to be expensive, but they might not be happening the way they're supposed to. And you're paying for the gap. And then there's the money that leaves the road entirely. This was the part I really wasn't ready for. The insurance industry calls it social inflation. It's a bloodless term for something pretty brutal. Social insurance is when liability claims costs rise faster than general economic inflation. And the driver isn't more accidents, it's more lawsuits, bigger lawsuits, nuclear verdicts. Jury awards over $10 million rose 52% in 2024. 135 cases totaling $31 billion. And litigation funding, where outside investors finance lawsuits in exchange for a cut of the award, has become a $17 billion industry globally, with more than half of that spent in the United States. What this means is that a meaningful chunk of your premium is not paying for crash cars or medical bills. It's paying for courtrooms. It's paying for legal strategies designed to maximize awards. It's paying for a litigation ecosystem that has grown up around the insurance industry like a second economy. And none of this shows up in your renewal notice. It's baked into the price invisibly. So let me trace the chain. A nuclear verdict in another state, a case you've never heard of, involving people you've never met, raises the cost of liability coverage for insurers. Insurers spread that cost across their entire book of business. Your premium goes up. And when you call your agent, they say, rising costs in your area. Not wrong, just incomplete. And here's the thing about social inflation that I find really uncomfortable. It's not just about greedy lawyers. The social part of social inflation refers to shifting attitudes about who is responsible for absorbing risk. Juries are awarding bigger sums because they're looking at the victims and thinking, someone should pay for this. And they're right, someone should. The question is who? And what we've built is a system where the cost of that moral impulse gets distributed across millions of insurance policies, a few dollars at a time, invisibly. You're paying for society's sense of justice, and you don't get a vote. So here's the full picture. The price of your car insurance is not a mirror of your driving. It's a composite. It's part repair costs, part litigation trends, part your credit score, part your willingness to shop, part the industry's losses from 2 years ago. And the reason you don't see this is that the system is designed to be opaque. Rate filings are dense. Insurance scores are proprietary. The connection between a nuclear verdict in another state and your renewal notice is invisible by design. The opacity isn't a bug, it's a feature. And it's what allows the common understanding. Your price reflects your driving to persist. And who benefits from that? The system broadly. If you believe your price is a mirror, you blame yourself. You shop less. You accept increases. You stay loyal. And loyalty is exactly what the system exploits. There's a technique called price optimization. It's been banned in some states, but it's hard to detect because it's buried inside proprietary algorithms. Price optimization means your premium isn't just based on your risk, it's based on how much of a price increase you'll tolerate before you switch. The insurer is modeling your psychology. They're asking, how much can we charge this person before they complain? If you're loyal, if you're busy, if you're the kind of person who doesn't question things, you're going to pay more. Not because you're a higher risk, because you're a higher tolerance. That's the part that makes me angry. It's not just that the system is complex, it's that the complexity is weaponized. The very thing that makes you a good citizen, loyalty, trust, a willingness to accept that things cost what they cost, are the things that make you a profitable customer. And you don't even know you're in that category. But here's the turn. If the system is a set of choices, then it can be changed. And that's where Michigan comes in. Before Michigan banned the use of credit in insurance pricing, drivers with poor credit paid around $8,640 a year for full coverage. Drivers with excellent credit paid $2,326. That's a gap of more than $6,000. Same driving record, same car, same coverage. The only difference was a credit score. After the ban, everyone pays the same average rate, $3,096 a year. A single policy change erased a $6,000 gap overnight for most drivers. The point is simple. That's not a law of nature. That's a choice. Someone made it, and someone could unmake it. The prices we're paying aren't inevitable. They're the result of decisions made by regulators, by legislators, by industry lobbyists, and those decisions can be different. Now, I'm not saying the Michigan solution is perfect. Some people's rates went up, the ones with excellent credit who've been paying less. But the point isn't that Michigan found the answer. The point is that the answer exists. It's possible. The system can be different. And the reason it isn't different in most states is not because it can't be, it's because there are interests that prefer it that way. And here's what I want you to think about. You probably made decisions about your car based on sticker price and fuel economy. I know I did. But did you ever ask what the sensors cost to recalibrate? Some insurers classify certain budget models with ADAS as higher risk because of expensive repairs. That means the car you bought because it was affordable might be costing you more in insurance than you realize. And you didn't know that when you bought it. You might have stayed loyal to one insurer for a decade, That's a point of pride for some people. But loyalty is the behavior that price optimization is built to exploit. You're not being rewarded for it, you're being targeted. You might carry a credit blemish from a hard year, a medical bill you couldn't pay, a period of unemployment. That blemish is now quietly costing you hundreds of dollars a year on a product that has nothing to do with credit. And you might not even know it's happening. The stakes are real. For someone earning the median household income, full coverage in 2025 ran about 3.6% of their entire income. That's not a line item. That's a meaningful chunk of a family's budget. And the affordability crisis feeds itself. 1 in 7 drivers is now uninsured. 14%. In some places, it's a quarter. When people drop insurance, the risk pool shrinks, rates go up, more people drop. It's a spiral. So, what does this actually change? What do I do with this? Here's the honest answer. I've been looking at this material for weeks, and I still don't have a clean conclusion. The most useful advice I can give you is also the most uncomfortable, because it goes like this: shop around, don't be loyal. The system exploits loyalty. Maria saved 30% by switching. You might save more. Treat your insurance like a negotiation, not a verdict. Get quotes every year. Make them compete for your business. Fix your credit if you can. If you have the time and the resources and the stability to do that, because it's pricing your insurance more than you realize. It might be pricing it more than you're driving. But here's the discomfort. That advice accepts the whole apparatus. It tells you to optimize within a system whose terms you never agreed to. It makes you a better player in a game I just spent the last 30 minutes suggesting is unfair. And I don't know how to reconcile that. The advisor in me wants to say this system is broken, and the solution is structural. But the pragmatist in me knows that you're getting a renewal notice next month, and the structural change isn't going to arrive before it's due. So I'm telling you to shop around. There's a bigger question here, too. The safety technology that's saving lives is the same technology that's making insurance unaffordable. That's not a contradiction, it's a paradox. And I don't know how to resolve it. The ADAS systems are working. They're reducing crashes, but they're also transforming the repair economy. And the people who are paying the most, the people who can least afford it, are the ones who are driving older cars without those systems. They're not getting the safety benefit, they're just getting the bill. The body shop owner told me that 88% of calibrations are missed. So some of us are paying for safety we're not getting. That's not a pricing problem, that's a regulatory failure. It's a quality assurance failure, and no one knows about it. And then there's the credit thing. The correlation is statistically real, but the outcome is discriminatory. And I don't know how to hold both truths at once. I've been turning it over for weeks, and it doesn't settle. The industry says a fair rate is an accurate rate. Consumer advocates say a fair rate doesn't discriminate by race and income. Both are right, both are wrong. And I'm not sure there's a resolution that satisfies everyone. I guess what I'm saying is, I went into this investigation thinking I'd find a villain. I didn't. I found a system that's doing exactly what it's designed to do: price risk, manage losses, generate returns, and producing outcomes that are, in some cases, profoundly unfair. The system isn't broken, it's working. That's the problem. And that's where I'm going to leave it. Not with an answer, with a question. If the price of insurance isn't really about how you drive, then what is it about? And how much of it can you actually touch? I think the answer is some of it, not all of it, but more than you think. I started this investigation because I got a renewal notice I couldn't explain. I thought my premium was a mirror. I thought if I drove carefully, I'd be rewarded. And in a small way, that's still true. Your record matters, your choices matter. But they matter inside a system that's much larger than you, with forces that have nothing to do with how you drive. The price you pay is a composite of repair costs, litigation trends, credit algorithms, and behavioral models. It's a negotiation you didn't know you were in. Maria shopped around and saved 30%. The immigrant with thin credit is paying $700 a month for an old car. The body shop owner is watching safety systems go uncalibrated. And all of us are paying for nuclear verdicts in courtrooms we've never seen. The Michigan number stuck with me. $6,000 gone. One policy change. That means these prices aren't permanent, they're choices. And the reason they feel permanent is that the system wants you to believe they're not. That's what I want you to hold on to. The next time you get a renewal notice, ask yourself, is this a measurement or is it a negotiation? If it's a measurement, then it's immutable. If it's a negotiation, then you have a say. And I think the evidence suggests it's a negotiation. One you didn't know you were in, but now you know. I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I know I'm going to look at my renewal notice differently next time. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to shop around. And I'm going to remember that the price I'm paying is not a verdict on my character. It's a number. And numbers can change. On the next Interconnected, I want to look at something that emerged from this investigation that I didn't expect. We talked about litigation funding, the $17 billion industry that's quietly financing lawsuits. Who's behind it? How does it work? And what does it mean when your insurance premium is in part an investment vehicle for someone else's legal strategy? That's a question I can't shake, and I think it's worth an investigation of its own. I'm Carl Kim. This is Interconnected.